In Affinity Photo, go to the Layers panel and create a new layer. Just go down here and just click here, Add Pixel Layer. So you've got another layer. You can now apply brush strokes. And I'm just going to apply it in blue in this case, and you can apply it in all different kinds of ways. Maybe just do that. Maybe just go for a red, and you can just tangle it in backwards and forwards. Now I'm not using an art pad and pen. I'm using a mouse, but you could of course make it more accurate if you want. But I don't really want that. I just want basic lines like that. And you can, of course, maybe mix in other colours and maybe go at different angles. So let's just go with that. So once you've got a sort of very basic design like that, you can then manipulate it further using motion blur. And this is a great one. So filters, go to blur, and then motion blur. And in motion blur, you can just drag like this, just change angles. And you can see you can create some very weird and wonderful shape designs, which is on a layer. So it's a layer, you could manipulate it further, you could duplicate it, combine them, etc. Also, you can obviously modify the rotation there if you want. But I think personally it works best just by interactively getting like that. So I'm going to go with that. Click apply. Well, now what you can do is you can use another effect. And that one is this one, filters, and go down to distort and down to equations. So equations, you've got loads of different options here. You can just go with the Cartesian, but polar is really useful. And you can put R times A times 10, say. And you get a very small object like that, which you may or may not want. Maybe you want to do it the other way. You just want to do it divided by 4. So you get it, fill it, the whole screen like that. And you can see, you can manipulate it, move around. So you can create all kinds of really weird and wonderful gradient designs super quick just by this. And this would be very hard to create using your standard gradient tool. And you can see just by moving around, you get different designs. You can also, if you want, go with mirror. And you can then just duplicate that and just drag that. But also what you can do is you can change this as well, the T. So T, and you can put times, and I'm going to go with B, say. So just tab off there, and then you can manipulate the B, and you can see as you do that, that will result in that. And you can move it around because you can see you can get a line, which is not always ideal. If you don't want that line, you can move it around to sort of position it so you don't get that line, maybe further down. But also, let's just go with something else. So instead of that, times sign, bracket, and again T, you can put T in that, times, and you can put C. And then you get something like this. And you can see then you get this sort of design. All kinds of literally infinite gradient designs can be created. And I think I'm going to go with this one, but it's a real nice design. But you could, of course, vary it even more. Maybe put it divided by 10, say. Obviously there it reduces it. And you can see by just moving around, you get different gradient effects. But I'm just going to remove that. Just want that one. Okay, once you've got that, what you can then do is click apply. And you've got the design, which you can then use to create even more designs simply by going over here to the move tool, with the move tool selected, press return or enter on the keyboard, and you've got this move and duplicate. So this will come up, and now you can enter, instead of rotation, let's put, instead of 0, put say 10, and you can see it. Now you will get this. So you might want to say, oh, let's just boost this up a bit, push it to 120. So you just expand this out a bit, maybe 130, like that. But also we can go duplicate, and then you can go here, a number of copies, and you can move that around, and you can see then you get this really weird, obviously very intense green and purple. However, you can go over here to layers and just change this. Now you can do this later as well. You can go through all these outside of this panel, but this does it for all of them. And you can just change it, maybe go to lighten, or maybe go with, say, difference. So as you do that, you get different designs there. And I'm just going to move that like that. And you can then move this backwards and forwards and get a design like that, and so on. Literally all kinds of different designs can be created. And maybe go with overlay. And again, just tweak the values here. Now, in this case, it doesn't seem to be producing any. You can always go back to something else that produces something that works. I think something like that creates some lovely little strands. And that's what I wanted, because I've got these strands of lines coming from it. And that's what you get when you use that motion blur just changing just a basic level set of lines and click OK. And then you've got that. Of course, once you've got that, you can always go through these and just change individual ones. You might say, you know what, that one works better or whatever. Maybe change it to something else. But if you're happy with it, you've got all those, you can then select all of them and then go to Layer, and then you can merge selected. So they're all merged into one. Now, you notice what happened there. It doesn't always generate the best result. Not exactly the same as before. So if you don't want to do that, all you need to do, simply just go over here to Layer and just Merge Visible. So Merge Visible gets that on top, and you can always then just delete all the rest. And there you have it, a lovely little design, which you can manipulate further. So let's just go back a bit. You could also use other effects as well. So I'm just going to push it all the way back to this one. So you've got this design here. Well, you can also distort it. So you don't have to have it just like this with the motion blur applied. You can always go to Filters, Distort and Deform. Works best if you've got the Move tool selected. And then you can use these pins. If you don't have that, something like a brush or something, you'll find that sometimes it just will not allow you to select the different there. And you can see then you can pull this out and distort it and create a very interesting oddball design just with a couple of pins. Just drag it out. Now try and avoid going over the edge, and also then drag it like this. So you can create sort of like a weird and wonderful gradient effect. Again, just based on a couple of lines, motion blur, and then applying this. And then click Apply. Exactly the same as before. Exactly the same thing. Just go to Filters, go to Distort, and then down to Equations. Unfortunately, it doesn't remember the settings. That's the one thing with this. It's not very useful in that respect. I wish there was a preset. There isn't. So again, go Polar, and you can then type in equation, and you can try different ones. So sine bracket R times 10. And you can see you get a really intense, super intense result. You might decide then at that point just divide it by 10 to get something like that, which is a more ripple-like effect, I think. You can move that around, or maybe 5. You can do all kinds of different designs with that image. And again, you can go here to mirror and then put in maybe an A there. So A times, and then you can tweak the A. So you can see as you do that, that will change that. And you can create this really beautiful, again, distorted gradient, which you can then manipulate further with this and put times sine bracket B times T, and then manipulate the B to create different designs there. And again, you can move this around, reposition it, maybe go off the edge there, or maybe go with something like that. So all kinds of unique designs can be created from a very basic set of lines and motion blur, and click Apply. Now you can do exactly the same as before. You can just go over here, make certain the layers selected. You can change the blend mode, so you can run through the blend mode, maybe go with different, say, just try it out. Go here, Move tool selected, press return, and then you can change the scale. You can also change rotation. You can also duplicate, and then you can see you can create some truly abstract designs just by doing that. And also you can move horizontal there and also vertical. Again, change the scale if you want, and you can see then by just one copy even, but maybe 2 copies or 3, and you can see you get a result like that. Very abstract design. Click OK. With this design, you can then, of course, exactly the same as before, I would suggest make sure none of these are selected, go to Layer and Merge Visible if you want to save it into a single design, and then of course select those and just delete them, and then you've got this sort of design, which you can of course manipulate further. Filters, go to Distort, Deform, maybe distort that as well. Just add some pins, and you can then distort that design in countless ways as well to create all kinds of unique, wonderful gradient-based designs, all from a couple of lines, motion blur, and of course that equations one. Hope you found this of interest. Any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Bye.